Every nation is built on a promise, right? But how do you actually capture a promise like that on paper? And maybe more importantly, how do you make sure it's guaranteed? Well, today we're digging into India's constitutional blueprint. We're going to look at the two pillars that really define its democracy: the incredible vision laid out in the preamble and the powerful protections you get from the fundamental rights.
So let me ask you something. If you had to boil down the entire spirit of India, its hopes, its dreams, everything, onto a single page, what would you even write? It sounds like an impossible task, but it turns out the founders of the nation already did all the heavy lifting for us.
And this is it, the preamble to the Constitution of India. People have called it the soul of the Constitution, even its political horoscope. But for my money, the best description comes from the great jurist N.A. Palkiwala. He called it the identity card of the Constitution. And that just nails it, doesn't it? It's somehow an introduction, a summary, and the entire philosophical core all rolled into one.
Okay, so to really get what this identity card is all about, we need to zoom in a little. Let's break down the 5 key words that truly form the foundation of the Indian state.
First up, sovereign. This one seems pretty straightforward, but it is absolutely essential. It just means India is its own boss. It's not a dependency. It's not a dominion of anyone else. It governs itself, period.
Next, we have socialist. Now, this is a really interesting one, mainly because it was added later, in 1976. And it doesn't mean what you might think. It's not about the state owning everything. What it's pointing to is this idea of democratic socialism, which is basically a mixed economy. The goal is to fight massive problems like poverty and inequality, not through some violent revolution, but through the democratic process itself.
Then there's secular, which, just like socialist, was also officially added in '76. Now, the Indian version is often called positive secularism. It's not about building a high wall between the state and religion like you might see in some other countries. Instead, it means the state doesn't have an official religion and it's committed to giving equal respect, equal protection to every single faith.
Democratic. And oh boy, this is so much more than just casting a vote every few years. It's the core belief that the ultimate supreme power belongs to the people. And this isn't just about politics. The vision extends to social and economic democracy too, all designed to make sure power doesn't just end up in the hands of a tiny few.
And finally, republic. To put it simply, this means the head of state, in India's case, the president, is an elected official. You can't inherit the top job. And that's so critical because it means political power ultimately rests with the people, not with a king or a queen or some dynasty.
So, the preamble lays out this just beautiful, incredible vision. But let's be real, a vision is just a bunch of nice words without a guarantee, right? So how does the Constitution actually turn that promise into a real, solid protection for every single citizen? That, my friends, brings us to our next part.
The answer is hiding in plain sight, in Part 3 of the Constitution. This section is so important that it's often called the Magna Carta of India. This is where we find the fundamental rights. This is where the promise gets its teeth.
And there's a reason they're called fundamental. It's because they are guaranteed and protected by the highest law in the entire country, the Constitution itself. They're basically designed to be a shield, to prevent authoritarian rule and protect your liberty from the state.
So what are these amazing rights? Well, originally there were 7, but today they're grouped into 6 big categories. Think of it like a comprehensive shield that protects every citizen. So let's do a quick tour, shall we?
Okay, so we've got the right to equality, the right to freedom. Then there's the right against exploitation, the right to freedom of religion, and your cultural and educational rights. And last but honestly, maybe the most important of them all, is the right to constitutional remedies. You could say this last one is the master key that unlocks all the other rights.
So how does that master key actually work? Let's say one of your rights gets violated. What do? How do you enforce it? Well, the Constitution gives you an incredibly powerful, incredibly direct tool for that, and it's all laid out in Article 32.
This, right here, this is your legal toolkit. It's what every citizen has at their disposal. Under Article 32, you can go straight to the Supreme Court and ask for one of these 5 things called writs. And these aren't just polite suggestions, they are powerful legal commands. For example, habeas corpus can literally force the state to bring a detained person before a court, or mandamus can order a public official to do the job they're legally supposed to do. This is the Constitution giving you, a citizen, a direct line to the highest court to keep power in check. It's amazing.
But here's the thing, none of this is frozen in time. The Constitution isn't some dusty relic sitting on a shelf. It's a living, breathing document.
and its meaning is constantly being debated, interpreted, and even changed by the courts.
And you want proof of that? Nothing shows this living quality better than the fight over the preamble itself. Just look at this timeline. In 1960, the Supreme Court actually said the preamble was not technically a part of the Constitution. But then, just 13 years later, in the huge Kesavananda Bharati case, it pulled a complete 180 and declared that yes, the preamble is an integral part of the Constitution. It just goes to show you that legal thinking isn't static, it evolves.
And because it's a living thing, it can also be changed. The preamble has only been amended once, way back in 1976, when those words socialist, secular, and integrity were added in. But, and this is a huge but, the court has also said that while you can amend it, you cannot destroy its basic structure. You can't touch those core democratic and secular values. They're here to stay.
So to kind of bring this all home, it's really useful to think of rights in India as having a kind of hierarchy. At the very top of the pyramid, you have your fundamental rights from Part 3, with that ultimate weapon of going directly to the Supreme Court. Just below that, you have other constitutional rights, like the right to property. And then below that, you have statutory rights, which are created by laws from Parliament, like the right to information. They're all important, of course, but your fundamental rights have that special, ironclad, protected status.
And all of this leaves us with one final big idea. The Constitution isn't a finished product. It's a living blueprint. That core promise of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity, it's something that is constantly being redefined and fought for. So the real question isn't just what the founders wrote, but how will the next generation, how will we, continue to interpret and live up to that incredible promise?